Hello everyone, my name is Sark and welcome back to another SH Figuarts review. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at Monkey D. Luffy from the raid on Onigashima. Onigashima? I think that's how you say it. So, this guy was available at Walmart, so I decided to take a gander and purchase him, especially since I have already looked at a couple of SH Figuarts from the One Piece line. So far it has been 50-50, with Yamato being really good and Zoro being absolute garbage. But I heard good things and bad things about this guy, so why don't we get him out and see what he comes with. Alright, so here we have Luffy from the raid on Oshigama. So this guy already looks pretty good. I like how he looks in terms of like the aesthetic and being able to actually capture the character design. He does have his red vest that he uses, or jacket or whatever it is, and it is a matte finish, as well as the pants are sort of shaded in some areas but not completely. Whoops. He's shaded in some areas but not entirely. And it's more of a satin finish than a matte finish right there. But the skin tone looks pretty good. Everything seems to match correctly. And his scar on his chest is also really good. Now, in terms of aesthetic, again, he looks amazing. I like it. But the thing that most people kind of disliked about this guy is not only the quality of him, but also the range of articulation. So let's get onto that right now. So for the head, you can look down this much and then you can look up this much, and even with the hat you can look up pretty far ahead, so you could probably get a little more range if you push the neck more as well. So there is that. You can move it side to side or swivel it side to side, and then he can look left and right perfectly. And of course he has a connected neck on the bottom that you can use for your range of motion, so you can pose them around however you want. Now, for the arms, mine are a little squeaky, as you can hear. Let me see if I can get a better focus. So you can get them a little bit better than a T-pose, which is great. I like that. I think it's always great when figures can get more than 180 degrees on their arms or the T-pose. You can rotate it 360 degrees. It's a little bit finicky, but you definitely can. He has a bicep swivel and a single jointed elbow, which I didn't think they would do, but they did. So that is a little bit of a bummer, but it's not bad because you can still get pretty good range, better than 90 degrees. So the way they engineered it was actually pretty smart. Although I think a double jointed elbow would have definitely gotten him a little bit better range. For the wrist, he does have a ball hinge for the wrist, so you can swivel it back and forth, and you can move it around however you want. Now, for the ab crunch, this figure has some great capabilities in terms of ab crunch. He can go this far, and that's because they use a fairly similar mechanism or engineering as Marvel Legends, surprisingly, where they have a hinge right here that you can move around, and of course the torso, but also the movement of the pelvis helps you a little bit more, being soft plastic, which is really great. Just to show you real quick, like this is the Captain Marvel from the Warbird Captain Marvel, which again is a really good figure, and the ab crunch is nearly the exact same. So there is that. I like how they did that for him. The back crunch, again, still pretty good because you are able to use this hinge on the front. So there is that. He can move side to side a lot, surprisingly. So that is more than some figures nowadays, for sure. So, and then you can move them however you want, side to side. I wouldn't recommend doing it too much to stress, to keep out the stress of that ball joint or whatever sort of joint there is inside. Now, The legs. This is probably the most controversial part about this figure. I heard a lot of people, at least in the first couple of releases for this guy, had issues with the legs falling apart and also being super loose and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, his little belt, he can swivel it side to side, so it's on a peg. So there's that if you want to do that for poses. But for the legs, he can do the splits really good. I'm like actually shocked about this thing. So yeah, that's already perfect splits. And then he can kick forward this far, and then he can kick backwards this far. He does have somewhat sculpted butt cheeks, but they're mainly on the leg, and he just has sort of an underwear type of cut for this figure, which I think they should do for every single figure, but they're not for some reason, so there is that. Now, right here is where some of the issues arise. So he can kick forward pretty far. You can probably get a little better than 90 degrees, but for bending the knee is not the greatest, because this part, which a lot of people have suggested that should be taken out or should have been done differently, is obstructing the figure's movement. So that's how much you're gonna get in terms of range for bending the knee, which sucks for sure. So you don't get a thigh swivel. Kind of. You kind of do, but you kind of don't. So you definitely don't want to grab it from right here. So yeah, I wouldn't suggest trying to swivel it for sure. For the foot, we do have a ball hinge as well, and he can get movement this far, forward and backwards, without popping it. Let's not pop that out. About this much, which is pretty good. And of course, the hinge is almost, the toe hinge is perfect because the sandal is not being broken up. So in terms of articulation, I think this guy is great. I did hear a lot of bad things about this guy, that he could have been done a little bit better. And yes, I do agree that the legs could have been done better, but I like it for what he is. So now let's move on to the accessories, because he has more than I thought, really. So let's look at those real quick. Alright, so in terms of accessories, I mentioned that he had more than I thought, and honestly, after taking them out, it's actually less than I thought, than I remembered. So, for this Luffy, we have a facial expression of him sort of smiling, which looks pretty good, honestly. Or actually, yeah, so we have a smiling faceplate with his teeth showing, and sort of a grinning faceplate with him being a little bit more serious, and of course the goofy faceplate that a lot of people enjoy, myself included, because he is the rubber boy. So he also comes with an additional head sculpt that allows you to get rid of his hat and not have his hat on. But it kind of sucks that you can't have his hat hanging from him, which it could have probably been included with this figure. And last but not least, we have two different hand gestures, which is just two flat hands and two sort of grasping hands, which is a little bit less than I thought. I think they could have definitely included another set of hands if they had combined the whole head sculpt into one in the package, rather than giving you a sort of assemble it yourself pieces. So there is that. So leading into my final thoughts, I do think this figure is pretty nice, especially for only $35 that you can find at Target and Walmart, mainly Walmart from what I've seen. But I do think this is a good figure to have in your collection. There is no other version of this guy yet. We are getting the Grand Blue, I think that's what it's called, Luffy from the pre-time skip. So you can definitely wait for that guy, but he's a little bit more expensive, so yeah. But I will say, that guy will have an additional parts effect, like arm pack, to allow him to actually do various different poses, which is cool. Just kind of wish this guy had the exact same, but I guess not. I guess Tamashii just wants this line to die in terms of the post time skip stuff. But I'm gonna give this figure an 8 out of 10. And the reason for it is because he has really good range of motion, a lot of good articulation everywhere. Besides the torso, the lower half of the body, because of the legs not having as much range of movement. And also the accessories kind of lacking a little bit. Again, they could have definitely included a little more for a $35 figure. But realistically, I'm not too mad about that. So there is that. So that is all the time I have for you guys today. Let me know what you guys think about this figure. Do you have it? Do you not have it? I would love to know, because again, this is a very controversial figure in some instances and whatnot. So I would like to know your stance on this figure. So besides that, I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.